Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 46. Models Memories is a show about nothing that is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you stream every single night. It makes no sense that you could possibly have more to say. Well, I do, and here goes. This week we saw from Games Workshop they showed off the sprues to the new Eldar Chaos box set. And, oh, by the way, that Chaos box set, it looks like a tiny number of models for a very huge price tag. Like, we saw this first with the Black Templar box, and that box was cooler to me just because it was Black Templar, but I almost feel like they should just slide in some just chaff units just to fill it up a little. I mean, 16 models does not feel like enough, but they're cool. And one thing that super got me excited was they showed off the sprues. And the sprues is where you really kind of get to see what's going on, and I thought they showed off something really interesting. So the new Eldar Rangers are Monopose. Or are they? I would say that they exist in a sort of hybrid between Monopose and multiparts that a lot of Games Workshop kits are nowadays. It seems like Games Workshop is kind of split right down the middle between Monopose and modular, which, to be honest, is kind of how things have always been, because you always had the plastic kits that were modular, and then the pewter kits that were, often singular piece models. So have things changed? Yes and no. And when they showed off the Rangers, I thought that they looked really cool, but they would probably be Monopose, which is probably okay, because the end product is really cool, so what are you gonna do? They look good. But they showed off the sprue, and they seem to actually be very well engineered. Taking a closer look at the sprue for the Rangers, I would expect to see 5 rifles because there's 5 models, but we actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 rifles. And that's actually really cool because it gives you some options. And I think that is the trick to making really good Monopose models, is having them be Monopose, but with options. I haven't gotten a chance to put these together. I don't know if I'm gonna because I don't play Eldar, but I would suspect that you are gonna be able to do a lot of taking this guy's gun and putting it on this guy's body. The Sisters of Battle kit is the exact same way, where you can follow the instructions and it'll tell you exactly how to build them. Part 21 goes on to the torso, part 32, but all of the arms and guns in the kits can actually fit on any torso. So even if you bought like 3 of the same box, you're going to have 3 pairs of the same running legs with the cloak unfurling to the right, but you can have 3 different gun options and 3 different head options, and that kind of creates that diversity that you're looking for. And it seems like the Rangers are built in a very similar way, which I think is really cool. And it makes me wonder, because we saw another kit that was almost exactly like this in the Blade Guard Veteran. The Blade Guard Veterans were models that came out in Indominus, but pretty darn quickly got their own multi-part plastic kits. And you'd expect it to be a pretty simple box. I mean, 3 guys, and they are all armed with swords and shields. So you got 3 guys, 3 shields, 3 swords, but no, you didn't get 3 swords, you got 11 swords. And that is a lot of options for your 3 little dudes. I mean, you can buy multiple, you could buy 3 of the exact same kit before you actually have to repeat any of the specific arm poses. And if you're even slightly okay with a little bit of green stuff and a hobby knife, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I think the Blade Guard Veteran box is really cool, and this box being so similar almost makes me wonder if there's somebody at Games Workshop who's like a specialist in this new style of design, where you do kind of have to follow the instructions and things go together in a fairly specific way, but they're engineered really well to give you a lot of options. And so I wonder if if one, there's a whole bunch of things on Games Workshop's palette. They're like, okay, we got new Eldar Rangers, we got the new squats coming back pretty soon, and we have this another Sisters of Battle kit. And so the Rangers ended up on Ned's desk, and Ned is the master of multi-part modular kits. Whereas, if the squats ended up on Brenda's desk, and so she just monoposes it and sends it off to the printers. So I wonder, I would once again, I would love to know all the behind the scenes of how this stuff ends up working. But I bet there's just somebody who's just a really good engineer who really kind of gets how to make these kits, because it's not really something we've seen before. The miniature wargaming it's a pretty new thing, and we've moved from lumpy lead miniatures to perfect CAD designed sculpts really, really quickly. And I mean, Games Workshop has definitely been on the forefront of figuring out exactly how to make kits. I mean, I remember when 8th edition launched and we got our first Primera Space Marines, and at the exact same time, we got the super Monopose models in the Dark Imperium, whatever the start collecting was for that edition. But then we also got easy to build kits for aggressors, and the Redemptor Dreadnought. But at the same time as we got the easy to build Redemptor Dreadnought that was made of like 16 components, we got the multi-part plastic kit Redemptor Dreadnought that came with like 200 components and is literally a Gundam in terms of modularity and posability. I mean, there's like pistons in the legs that you can rotate if you want to get the leg up on a tactical rock, and you can manipulate every finger in the power fist. It is a super, super cool box. And then, you've got other boxes that have come out since then that are not nearly so modular and designed in such a way. Every single product Games Workshop comes out with feels like a little bit different, and they're trying things or they're not trying things. Or I would love to be a fly on the wall at the meetings where they're like, okay, here's the 216 projects that we're working on. How are we going to approach each one? What are the needs of each one? We have to get Blade Guard Veteran out really, really quick after Indominus, but maybe we don't have to with the Outriders, which seems weird because the Outriders are super cool and I would love a different box for them, but it doesn't matter. Just clip off the sprues from Indominus and throw those in a box. But not the Eradicators. We need to get Eradicators out there in their own custom plastic kit really, really quickly. It's really, really odd. Obliterators still haven't seen their own box come out yet, but other things have. It is a bizarre thing looking at the Games Workshop release schedule. It's really hard to make any concrete decisions or to pick out anything in particular that is like common. Like everything just feels so random all the time. I think the only thing you can really be sure of is that there will be new miniatures. But good old Games Workshop and good old plastic models. They are far, far, far superior to resin and metal. And I've built good metal models. I actually may have some Infinity models, and they are the cream of the crop in terms of metal, but metal is soft and fragile. I have some models where if I dropped them, that'd be the end. But plastic models, they're so light and they're bouncy. You drop it, it just boonk, bounces right off the floor. You're good to go. Maybe a little super glue, maybe just in case the sword breaks off. But it was super cool to look at the Rangers. I really got a kick out of seeing their design, and I really hope going forward we get a lot more kits like that, which it does seem like we are. I mean, the Genestealer Cult, the Sisters of Battle, and then some of these new models, they all seem to do a really, really good job of blending really, really cool posing and like dynamic miniatures with options, which to my eyes is better than true multi-part plastic kit. I mean, what are the real multi-part plastic kits that were crazy posable? The Tau did it well. Space Marines didn't really do it well. I mean, you had that ball joint in the waist, but that was about it. Orcs did it pretty badly. Again, ball joint in the waist, and then you had the Tinker Toy arms that could only go on flat. I think we're not losing as much as we're getting, in my opinion. But speaking about not great things I saw from Games Workshop, they also showed off the sprue for the new Chosen. And the new Chosen are bad, in a way. So the Chosen are models that we first saw way back in the day of Dark Vengeance. And those models were super, super dope and Monopose. But they came with a couple of different weapon options, and people really liked them. A lot of people use them as Chaos Champions. Because of those special weapon options, and we're finally, many years later, getting a full release with options, but not enough options. And I think this was always what was going to happen, because a lot of the older Space Marine kits have an impossible number of options. But what we get in the box is 5 dudes with 24 weapon options. But in my opinion, it should have been 5 dudes with 65 weapon options. Because available to Chaos Chosen, available to 5 Chaos Chosen, there should have been 5 bolt guns, 5 combi bolters with options, 5 combi bolters, because combi bolters are a specific thing to the Chaos Space Marines because they still use Legion weapons from Horus Heresy. 5 bolt pistols, 5 plasma pistols, 5 chain swords, 5 power fists, 5 power swords, 5 power axes, 5 power mauls, 5 chain axes, and 10 lightning claws so that all 5 of them can have a pair of them. That would have been the perfect solution so that you can spam any option you want. That would have been the perfect solution. That would have been what I would have loved to see from arguably one of the coolest models Games Workshop has ever made, the Chaos Terminators. The new Chaos Terminators look absolutely stellar, but the kit does not come with nearly enough components to build exactly the loadout you want. And is it important to always be able to build perfect WYSIWYG? Yes, it is. Because it makes me happy when all 5 of my guys who I want armed with power mauls all have a power maul. But in the box, what we do get is 2 combi bolters with options, 5 bolt guns, 4 chain swords, 2 chain axes, 3 bolt pistols, 2 plasma pistols, 2 power fists, a power sword, 1 power axe, 1 power maul, and 1 pair of lightning claws. So chances are you're not going to be able to build the exact perfect loadout you want. I think this box would again definitely make a really, really good box for like your champion models where you only need to build like 1 with special weapons. You can definitely supplement this box if you already have maybe a box of Chaos Space Marines. That'll get you an extra power maul. Basically, it'll get you 1 extra set of all the power weapons. But it's not perfect. It's interesting to see that this is the solution they came up with, is just to give you a good smattering of the weapons you probably want, and then enough stuff to give everybody a chainsword and bolt pistol. Although, are you really going to give them a chainsword and bolt pistol? If you want Chaos Space Marines armed with chainswords and bolt pistols, you can just make that out of the normal Chaos Space Marine box. I feel like you wouldn't really want to put those onto your chosen models. So only 24 weapon options, which is kind of a lot. Like if you play Space Marines, you probably will want to purchase the chosen, because being able to spread those 24 weapon options throughout your force is pretty cool, and it's always great to have tons of bits. But I think that there should have been like literally tons of bits. Like the box should have had like 2 extra sprues in it that are only special weapons. And that doesn't even include some of the special weapons like plasma guns and flamers and stuff, because I'm pretty sure that Chosen can also take special weapons. They're not just limited to close combat weapons. But the models do look cool. Clearly, the same person who did the Rangers did not do the Chaos Chosen. Although the Rangers had it easier because all Rangers have the same loadouts, whereas literally no Chosen have the same loadout. It is a completely modular modular unit. Which the Space Marines also similarly had a unit like this. I remember way back in 6th edition, carefully calculating exactly what was the best option. I believe it was power mauls and plasma pistols. But you don't really hear much about those anymore, but it's a little bit too bad, the new Chaos Chosen box. We've waited so long, and now when they finally arrived, they are just okay. They're not bad. But to us untitled wargamers, that's not nearly good enough. Come on, Games Workshop, do better. But anyhow, another really, really cool thing that happened this week was the LVO thingy happened, and they showed off a whole bunch of new stuff. Now this wasn't super on my radar because actually I don't get that jazzed about new models. I think it's just because I've been playing too long. Like, you know, when I was first starting to collect Warhammer, every new model that came out was like just, you know, mind shattering. It was amazing. But now after like, you know, 8 years of Games Workshop coming out with new stuff almost every week, it's like, yeah, the new thing's coming out. It's gonna look cool. I probably won't buy it because there's just too much stuff. But LVO changed my mind a little bit because they came out with a lot of stuff. But also one thing that was super cool about this release, I happened to be up I wasn't planning on watching it, but I happened to be up really late because I was working on a video. And so I decided to hop into our Discord. By the way, we have a Discord server. And go, you know, just join a chat with a bunch of the other nerds, and we watched it together. And it was so much fun. It reminded me of like classic back in the day, like talking about Star Wars or stuff. And just, it was so much fun because Games Workshop would show off a thing, and then we would all be like, whoa, that's so cool. And then we would all immediately start to make fun of it. It was so much fun. Like immediately they would show off a model, we'd all be like, damn, that is the coolest thing we've ever seen in our lives. Look at his head. It was so great. And it's great because often online, negativity really gets kind of circulated, and because of all the different algorithms, and just because negativity kind of gets more clicks, tends to do a little bit better, and also because you're not really ever seeing anything in context, especially when it's text-based communication. Whereas in person, you're really getting people's emotions, and everything is coming across, and it was just so much fun to look at all of the new models with some folks. And so really quick, let's take a peek and lightning round through all this stuff. First, they showed off a new look at the Avatar of Khaine, which is an unbelievably cool model. The Avatar of Khaine, I think, like, Games Workshop comes out with a lot of models, and I look at a lot of these new models, and they're all pretty darn great. But this Avatar model is actually like one of the first models in a long time where I'm like, that is actually a super sick, cool model. One of the things I really love about this model is they actually put like a crinkly texture all over his body, which is not something that Games Workshop does a lot. Like, usually shapes and textures will kind of be more represented in paint, whereas on the miniature it'll be smooth. So I think it's really cool to see that texture actually represented in the sculpt of the model. But they showed off some of the other cool options, like a helmetless head. I didn't even know he was wearing a helmet this whole time, but apparently he's actually wearing a helmet over a weird red, like Magnus the Red looking face. It's actually super, super dope. And then you got a sword or a spear or an axe. Some really, really, really cool stuff. But then they showed off the new Phoenix Lord Moggan Ra. And this model is super, super dope. I actually have the old Moggan Ra, and the old sculpt is really, really solid. I think the new one might be a little bit better, but it is super, super cool. I love his ultra wide stance on those two little rocks. And I think one thing that could actually be dope is like take a primary Space Marine, slice him right down the middle, and then have the two halves of the Marine kind of falling apart. And then he's like, has jumped up and is launching off of the two halves of the primary Space Marine. I might have to make that conversion because it is super, super cool. But yeah, I mean, this model looks absolutely dope. I love his weird little like friend that's hanging off of his back. 10 out of 10 model. I absolutely love it. And then we got the new Shining Spears, which is an aspect warrior of the Eldar I often forget exists. I think I just block it out of my mind because the old model is really bad. It's really, really bad. But the new models look super, super dope. They look amazing. They kind of look like they're on jet skis, which is awesome. The new type of Eldar flyer is just kind of chunkier and fatter than the old version. I think it's just a different type, like it's meant to perform a different role, but I super duper like it. They look really, really cool. At the very bottom, they have like a splash image of all of the different new units put together, and they look really, really good. I mean, the Eldar have languished for a while, and it's cool to see them getting a whole bunch of new stuff. After the Eldar stuff, we got some new Age of Sigmar, including a new box set, the Arena of Shades, which actually looks kind of dope. But we got to see some new models for the Night Haunt. The Vayon? Leading the Night Haunt is Vayon of the Withered Quill. Probably saying that correctly. And this model looks super, super cool. It's similar to the other Night Haunts, and it's, oh my gosh, the paint job on this is phenomenal. They actually, usually, like the Games Workshop team, they have to do things kind of by the rules of heavy metal, but on this I actually see some pretty intense techniques. I mean, tons of amazing freehanding on the book, some like streaking on the feather to actually give it individual little cells of the feather. And then on his back, they've actually watered down some brown paint and spattered it on his back, and then it dries in these weird coffee stains, and it looks really, really cool, but it's kind of interesting that they just, they kind of let the painters go a little wild on this model. I feel like they haven't done that in a little while. And then the new Nighthaunt with the crossbows. I love a Nighthaunt with a crossbow. One of the nerds that I was watching this preview with brought up a really, really good point with the Nighthaunt with the crossbows is, you're supposed to take like the stirrup of the crossbow and stand on it and then pull the rope back, but the Nighthaunt don't have legs. So we came to the conclusion that the Nighthaunt actually bite down on the stirrup and then pull down, and that's how they cock their bows, because they don't have feet. But those models are dope. And then we got a new character for the Daughters of Cain. And that is the High Gladiatrix, Yelena. Which I love the name Gladiatrix. That is a super, super dope name. The model looks great. Honestly, this box is pretty tempting. I think it's kind of easier to be tempted by the Age of Sigmar boxes than the 40k boxes, because I don't really own any Age of Sigmar models. So everything is going to be new and exciting. Whereas with the 40k boxes, it's like, I've already painted a Forge Fiend, so that's like 25% of the box I don't care about. But yeah, super, super cool new models. They did not quite go as all out on the Gladiatrix as they did on the Nighthaunt character, but that's okay. I'll forgive them just this once. Oh my goodness, there was so much stuff to get through. For 30k, they actually did come out with something for 30k, amazingly, and that is Banha, a new Bloodthirster. And this model, when we saw this model, everybody like screamed, but then we noticed that this is a Forge World model and is almost certainly going to be resin. And so that means that this is going to be like an $800 Bloodthirster. And so we were all like, cool, never in a million years am we going to get to buy this thing. So, but it is super, super dope. I like it a lot more than the current Bloodthirster and his weird little ballerina pose. But yeah, just a top-notch model. Looks really, really nice. Also, they showed off a new animation for Warhammer Plus, which is it's starting to annoy me because I absolutely loved Angels of Death. It was such a cool show. And then they teased a Black Templar show. And then they teased a Tau show. And now they're teasing an Interrogator show. And it's like, just give us the new animation. I don't even care what it is at this point. Just give us new episodes of something. But it looks like, yeah, it's going to be kind of like a cool noir thing. You know, we'll see. And then for Kill Team, which is my favorite Games Workshop game right now, they showed off an Eldar Corsair, which I don't think is something anybody was expecting. I mean, getting Eldar Corsairs is very similar to us getting Plastic Krieg, and we all know that that will never happen. But the model looks okay. I think the painters did what they could, but I think this model is one of those models that's really going to come to life when non-Games Workshop people are painting it, because right now it really looks a little bit like a clown. It looks very, very silly, whereas I think once it's out in the hands of the community and people paint it a little bit more grim and dark and tattered, I think that is really when the model is going to come to life. But I can't wait for a whole team of the Eldar Corsairs and whatever else is going to be in the box. But some really, really neat stuff. It was super cool to see Games Workshop come out with so many cool new models, but you know what they didn't come out with? T-shirts and sweatshirts. Luckily for you guys, we did. We have merch. You can follow the link in the description below to take a look at our super cool t-shirts and sweatshirts with our own hobby-related designs. But if t-shirts aren't your thing, but you still want to support the channel, the best way to do so is to become a member of our Patreon. Over there, you're gonna get access to tons of super, super cool Grimdark Terrain STLs. And in addition to that, you're gonna get some behind the scenes voting what models I paint live here on YouTube, a live hobby hangouts every week, exclusive videos, and more. But with that said, I wanna show off one really cool artist's work at the end of this video, and that is a user called FelixTheCrazy. I've been using FelixTheCrazy stuff for a little while now, and I think it was time to give him a proper shout out. Over on his Cults 3D page, you can see all of his wonderful Kroot-inspired designs. Some really, really phenomenal work. He has some really, really cool stuff like Kroot-inspired heads that look like the Predator from the movie The Predator. He's got a Kroot Duck and Hawk, which is A model that's kind of inspired off of a kit bash I actually saw on Daka Daka way back in the day. He's got his own version of the Great Narlock. He's actually got Kroot that are driving the brute motorcycles from Halo 2. Like, he's got tons and tons of really, really fun design. He has a shockingly accurate recreation of the Games Day exclusive Kroot Shaper from like a million years ago. But that, I might have to 3D print that model. That actually looks dope. And he just has tons and tons of Kroot. If you play Tau, I think that you're gonna have to come here and check out all of this new Kroot stuff. But I think the one thing that he has here that is truly, you must have this if you play Kroot or Tau, is the alternate Kroot heads. The Kroot heads that come in the box that Games Workshop makes are serviceable. They look all right. The face is okay, but the quills are really, really lacking. Because of the need for the two-piece mold, plastic injection molding, all of the quills are kind of flat and stuck together, but with these heads, the quills can all be separated and it looks so much more natural and interesting. He's got naked Kroot heads with goggles and like night vision goggles almost. Those are the super cool ones that I'm using, but he also has some gas mask heads, which are super, super cool. And he actually has pony quills, which I think is a super cool idea because it almost like makes sense in universe. Like maybe sometimes, like if they're on like a secret mission or they're in a lot of like dense foliage, maybe they really, really want to tie up their quills to keep them up and out of the way. It's super cool. Or maybe, you know, they're just working around the house, doing a little tidying and they don't want their hair getting in the way. And so they just tie up their quills. I think that is an absolutely brilliant idea. But all of this stuff is super, super cool and has been made available for free to anybody who wants to download and print them. But if you do, make sure to leave a tip because we want the 3D printing community to grow and prosper. And that means supporting the artists we like. Some very, very cool stuff. But that is what I saw in the Warhammer world. But what I actually was been working on is I built a little bit of terrain. And this terrain is from Kill Team Chalnath. I finally broke down and got the box. I am gonna be working on the Sisters Novitiates, and Nick is gonna be working on the Tau Pathfinders. But it seems like it's got some super cool kill teams in it, and the terrain is really, really cool. This is the Games Workshop terrain that they've sold forever. I don't know if they currently have it available, but it is ultra modular. And usually modularity is a bit of a double-edged sword because it means that you can do anything you want with it, but it also means that it's more complicated and more pieces. It actually took a long ass time to assemble all this terrain, but boy, does it look really, really nice. I actually kind of want a lot more of it, but it seems like everybody on eBay knows exactly what they have because they are charging what it's worth, which is too bad for me because I would love to get it for like cheap, but wouldn't we all? But this terrain is super, super cool. It comes with a new rule. It seems like every Kill Team box is gonna come with a new terrain rule. Octeris came with the Scramble Over, and Kill Team Chalnath is coming with the Punishing Vantage Point, which I was initially nervous about because Vantage Point is already a really, really strong ability in Kill Team. But I actually think Punishing Vantage Point is not gonna be that punishing if you're using the Chalnath terrain, because this is obscuring terrain, and Vantage Point does not get rid of obscuring terrain. So if you have a conceal order and you're hidden behind obscuring terrain, you are still not a viable target. So I'm actually really excited to see how the whole box plays together. I think it'll play really, really well. But unfortunately, I'm not gonna get a chance to build the Novitiates this week, but I did manage to get the terrain built. And that is what I've been working on this week, and it'll bring this episode of Models Memories to a close.